Hey everyone, welcome into another episode of No Holds Barred here at the Toronto Sun. Rob Wong and Postmedia wrestling writer Jan Murphy with you. Our guest today is a four-time WWE Women's Champion, one of the most influential wrestlers of all time, and of course a WWE Hall of Famer. It is Lita. Great to speak with you today.
Hey, nice to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. As we sit here today, WWE, of course, coming off the Royal Rumble, we are on that road to WrestleMania. You've still got so many friends at WWE, I'm sure that you keep in contact with, but how much of the TV product are you still watching these days?
I like to watch the pay-per-views and I kind of like to keep it I'm not the slave to it where I'm not watching every single thing. So that way when I do check in and see the premium live events and when I do watch it, I'm excited about it. And yeah, I can just kind of root for my friends and also watch it as a fan. So I'll check into the I'll check into the premium live events and then yeah, check out a Raw. If I find myself sitting at home, I'm like, oh yeah, Raw's on, let's go.
I know you're from the era that I'm from because you keep trying to call it the pay-per-view.
House
Uh,
shows, you'll probably hear this sometime this interview as well. But
so I was thinking about it this morning, thinking about this interview. The last time I feel like I sat down with someone of your ilk was many, many years ago. I interviewed Terry Funk. And at the time, I remember sitting in the moment thinking to myself, my God, I'm interviewing Terry Funk. This is like a trailblazer, an absolute icon of the business. And that's what I feel like right now. The word gets thrown around a lot, but you look back at what you did. No one else had done it before you. To me, that is trailblazing 101. Do you ever, sort of reflect on your place in history of professional wrestling? I'm sure you hear it a lot, but do you realize it?
I don't think I did in the moment. And I think the first time I kind of had a chance to reflect and go, wow, yeah, I did some cool stuff was when I went into the Hall of Fame because, you might have heard people talk about it. We don't have an off season. So you might think for one moment at the end of that match, oh, that was a good match or that was a cool segment. But you're like, I got to get in the car. Let me try to beat the crowd. I got to get to the next town. And you don't have a lot of time to sit and reflect. And then, you're on to the next thing, on to the next thing. So it wasn't until they told me I was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame and I put a Facebook post and said, hey, what do you guys remember from my career? And there were so many memories. It wasn't like, oh, that one time and that's what everybody was saying. Everyone's like, well, I know people talk about this, but this is my personal memory. And so some of them I'd have to go, oh yeah, I haven't even thought about that since it happened and everything. And it was really nice because I think also with the success I was able to have, I also kind of had the office breathing down my neck, being like, don't go get the big head, don't go thinking you're anything special. And
Wow.
so it kind of made me be like, even if I would get a larger reaction than I thought it, or it was kind of, I'd be like, well, yeah, that took the whole team and that wasn't just me. Like I was really, kind of ingraining myself not to relish and cherish some of the opportunities that I had. And then when it was time to go into the Hall of Fame, I really got this perspective where I almost got to watch my career as a movie and be like, wow, that was some really cool stuff that I pulled off.
And if you could have, at the time seen present wrestling and the way that women are celebrated and main eventing, could you ever have dreamt that up?
No, and I think if I could have seen that, then I wouldn't have been so like timid in relishing my moments. I would have been like, okay, just like almost hide these things that you're getting to do so that I get to keep doing them. But if I could have seen the bigger picture and where things would head today, I think I would have been like, no, like give me a moment. Let me like be proud of myself for just this moment after pulling something off. And I'm glad I got to have that moment going into the Hall of Fame and be like, just give myself like the smallest pat on the back and be like, that was awesome.
So it's been a few
Incredible,
years.
incredible.
So it's been a few years since we've seen you perform in ring. We know that one of your best friends, Trish Stratus, got back in there last year at Elimination Chamber here in Toronto. Is there still a part of you that would want to get back in there, or was your last run in WWE sort of the perfect send off for you?
Well, I will say, like, I feel complete. Like, I was really happy to have the singles match with Becky and then to be able to get in there with Trish and Becky and go against Damage Control. It was pretty awesome. And I feel very satisfied in that. But it was a little weird the way it ended, where, I had this really fun celebratory match at WrestleMania. And then the next thing I know, they're like, oh, by the way, you're just going to be laying on the ground and we don't need you anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. And so it felt complete, and then it didn't, just the way things kind of ended. Am I still satisfied with all I've accomplished and even just the stuff I've been able to do post full-time run? Absolutely. But yeah, I wouldn't rule it out if the right opportunity came, because yeah, I still feel really good, and there's so much talent out there. It's always fun to mix it up with the current roster.
That was sort of my next question. Physically, you did things in your career at that time that were, a lot of very physical, dangerous stuff. I mean, Matt and Jeff over the years, their bodies have broken down. Bubba and Devon, a lot of people from that era. Amazingly, Rey Mysterio seems to be the guy who will never quit wrestling. But
Yeah.
physically, how did your body respond to what you put it through for a decade or more?
Yeah, I had times when it was really bothering me. I mean, even while I was actively competing, I remember my lower back. I went in because it was bothering me, and the doctor said, "Well, when did you break your back?" And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, "Yeah, I'm seeing here on the X-ray you've broken your back." So at some point, I'd broken my back and just kept going, and that might have been why it was hurting me, and I had some issues with that, but I've really prioritized feeling good and having my body feel good in my post full-time career, because I do see so many of my former coworkers and other legends, and it just reminds me every day like what I put my body through. But I will say, like, gosh, like the regenerative power that your body does have, but you do have to give it the opportunity to heal, which I have, and just really prioritize. And I'm so thankful that I do feel good now, and wake up most days feeling awesome, and I'm thankful for it every day.
Yeah, not a lot of people in that industry get to say that, unfortunately, at the end of
Yeah.
their career. So that is something to be very grateful for. As I mentioned, Trish earlier, one of your closest friends, and you guys are attached at the hip. You seem to do a lot of events still to this day. Did you two hit it off from the moment you first met back in those WWF days?
Instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, I was intimidated by her when I first saw they hired her. I was like, oh my gosh, this goddess, I'm never going to get on TV. I was hired like, right before her, a couple months before her. And then I saw them announce that they hired her. And I was like, okay, well, I was so close, almost got on TV, And then we met, and we just instantly hit it off. And we always say to both the fans and ourselves, we're kind of the perfect yin and yang, because we're very different, but we're very similar in a lot of ways. And so we can kind of balance each other out. And from a fan perspective too, if you're not a Lita guy, you can be a Trish guy. And then now it's fun for fans to be like, okay, I'm both. Like we've been able to separate and come around. But yeah, she's definitely such a special friend. You have friends that you're like, I can share this with, I can share that, but to be able to have had a pretty similar journey timeline wise and everything, and also retiring at the same time, and just, we've just remained so close and talk all the time. And, oftentimes no wrestling subjects come up whatsoever. It's really, really special to be able to take away that friendship from the business, like another gift that I got from my career journey.
I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I remember interviewing you and the Hardys in Toronto at different times. But you talk about Trish and you almost unanimously throughout my career, people like Paige, AJ, Bailey, Liv Morgan, the list goes on. Marina, Maurice, so many people, they cite you or Trish as their influence. And now we have this entire generation, Rhea Ripley as well. We have this entire generation now of these superstars. They are, you saw that, Charlotte Flair. I mean, there's just so many today.
Mhm.
That must feel pretty special to have influenced an entire generation that came after you, or two generations at the point.
It's two, because now people are saying, oh, Charlotte influenced me, or Becky influenced me. For people that are making it on the roster now, I saw somebody who was like, oh, Liv is who got me into wrestling and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see it like removed, but to see an entire locker room full of representation. I get asked a lot, who influenced me to get into wrestling. And you'd mentioned him earlier, Rey Mysterio, and he was wrestling before I even thought about wrestling, and is still wrestling. But I didn't have a lot of women to look for as direct influences. I had plenty of women, in other entertainment venues, singers, and just like, I grew up in punk rock. And so there would be like front people of bands that I would take influence from, but they weren't wrestling. They weren't doing what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do didn't really exist yet, and in the way that I wanted it to. And so to now have an entire locker room full of representation with ages and ethnicities and sizes, and the vast representation out there now, it's pretty awesome. Like, it makes me so happy just to watch.
When it comes to the in-ring stuff, I think, one of the highest compliments a wrestler can receive is when you see a move performed and you instantly connect it with someone. And for you, of course, it's the moonsault. Do you remember the first one you ever did? And how did that end up becoming your finisher of choice?
Yeah, so I was definitely influenced by the lucha libre style of wrestling, and wanted to emulate and build on the moves that I saw in the ring and lucha matches. And I was, I was training. I was at MCW Maryland Championship, and I'm, doing. I said, I want to do that thing where you stand on the top rope and then you do a backflip onto somebody. And my trainer was like, yeah, I can't do that. I don't know how to tell you how to do it. And I was like, I think I can do it. And it was like, all right, well, like, do you want me to catch you? Like, what do you want? I go, no, just put a heavy bag. It was like a 80-pound, like a boxing heavy bag. Put it in the middle of the ring. I'm going to land on it. Or, like, how do you want me to spot you? I was like, I'm back. And he was like, okay, did it. And I was like, yeah, felt good. I'm going to do that. And how did you do this? I was like, a lot of holding my breath and crossing my fingers is how I got here.
That's incredible. I mean, you look at some of the stuff that happens today. You guys were taking risks in the 90s and early 2000s that really hadn't been seen. I mean, very different when you talk about ECW. They were always, uh, you know, crazy. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Fortunately,
You
I'm
spent
both,
some
for sure.
time there
Yeah.
too. Paul Heyman had some time with you, but now you watch them today. These guys doing those, by jumping up three ropes and then doing it without their hands, and all the rope stuff that happens today. Pretty again reflective of sort of the stuff that you did early on, and they've just you know sort of expanded on it. Do you marvel at the athleticism now versus what maybe was around? You certainly were athletic, and the Hardys, but the big muscular or the overweight guys, they're getting replaced by these young athletes today.
Yeah, I remember, you mentioned ECW and how, much they like to push the envelope early on. When I was there for the brief time, they would have a stretcher and a e-collar, like a hard, like a neck collar. And it was right next to the curtain. And it was just leaned up there, like, just in case. And it would freak me out. I would see it. I mean, you had to pass literally right inches by it when you would go out through the curtain. And I remember being like, ugh, like I would like have an active, like, I really hope that is there at the end of the night. Like, I want no
Yeah.
one to go out on that, and I hope that everybody is safe. And I would say it before every show. And I think that, with how far the athleticism has come, and the moves that people just do as even like a throwaway, just like a quick high spot, it's almost not absorbed what could go wrong at each and every one, because people are so talented and because they're hitting these moves all the time and just getting right back up and egging the crowd on to cheer and like it's nothing.
Last one for me, Lita. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your first in-ring WrestleMania, WrestleMania 18 in Toronto. I was there as a 16-year-old kid watching you face off against Trish and Jazz. What do you remember about that day, just leading up to it, and the night, of course, when you eventually got out there?
Yeah. I remember it feeling really big. I was really close with Jazz as well. So to probably have the people I was closest, the two people I was closest with in the ring for that match was really special. Jazz really looked out for me. I really bonded with her for the time that we were in ECW, and it took a while, but I really, really pushed and wanted her to be part of the locker room in WWE as well, and to see them utilize her to her strengths that she had in the ring. To be, she's not very tall in stature, but she's so powerful, and to be able to get that come across in her character, and to have the three of our dynamics, three very different wrestlers out there. So I remember that for sure. And then, yeah, of course, I remember us trying to kind of focus up before the match, and the venue was deafening during the Hulk Hogan and Rock match that was going on before, that we were like, wow, this is crazy. I would love to be watching this right now, but it's probably better that I just kind of focus and ready to go out there and do my thing.
Last one from me. From a fan's perspective, do you think you're remembered more synonymously with the Hardys or with Trish?
It's interesting that you ask if I'm more synonymous with the Hardys or Trish, because it's like my look and everything is so part of Team Extreme. And I think that Team Extreme was such a special union that brought so many fans, because we were almost mirroring of the people that were sitting at home watching all the time. The three of us would travel together, and I remember we'd go into gas stations at midnight, after the show, and people would always say, "Are you guys in a band?" And we just kind of had that look like we were, and I also remember when during the Monday Night Wars, you could win a nitro party. Like you could, like a wrestler would come to your house and you would hang out. And we've got that all the time. They're like, you're like our friends, like us just hanging out watching. So I think that we had this very relatable quality. And I really treasure that chapter of my career. But then I think, because to see where women have gone so far, and the representation that there is now, then people harken back to the Trish and Lita rivalry and 100%. Its lasting impact. So I do think that, I'll take either one. I'm proud of both of the associations. But I think in a general, like a larger standpoint, I'm more associated with the Trish and Lita rivalry. But that's not to discount like the importance of Team Extreme and the impact that it had on that generation as well.
That's a great answer. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
It had such a big impact on us, as well as wrestling fans back there in the 90s and early 2000s. It was so great to relive a lot of these memories with you, Lita. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, you guys. It's fun for me as well.